Hey guys, my name is Tess. Welcome back to another video. Today, we're going to be doing the Furmaid speed paint. Now, the frame rate is just complete garbage in this. I don't know what happened. Something happened to the recording. I think it's because I accidentally recorded in the wrong format, and then I had to, of course, try to make it an MP4, and that didn't work. So, around the 2-minute mark is when the recording gets definitely a lot more cleaner, and it actually looks good. But basically, this was the weekly art magazine theme for this week, was to redraw one of Lavender Town's art pieces in your style. And I was going to do the original pose, but I realized she was missing on an arm completely, and I was like, no thanks. I'd rather just draw both arms, but somehow avoid drawing hands. And so I think the reason I chose this was because I wanted to do one for more popular drawings, and the one layer challenge was one of her most viewed videos. So I didn't do this on one layer because, I mean, I'm still a wimp at digital art. I couldn't do that if I tried, even though I have done it in the past, and I actually did it once before I even knew what layers were. I have a problem. But, I don't know if anyone else has ever done this. I'm pretty sure people have, but, not just MS Paint. I used to actually be really into digital art on my phone, and I didn't know what layers were. I thought it was just another feature that Autodesk Sketchbook had, but it's completely different. It's definitely a necessary feature of, digital art, and I feel like that if you aren't using layers in your digital art, what is wrong with you? Unless you're creating pixel art, you need to use layers. And even if you're creating pixel art, you should probably use layers because it gives you an idea on where the proportions are going to be, what it's going to look like, and you don't have to erase tons of things meticulously piece by piece. You can just hide a layer. So looks like now I'm working on the second sketch layer, which this frame rate is awful. I cannot watch this. I think there we go. Okay. So there's the good frame rate, and I don't know what happened to the rest of the second sketch. I guess it corrupted, probably. So now that the frame rate actually looks good, we're working on the line art now. I think for some parts of the hair, I didn't have the stabilizer on, which that's another thing about digital art. If your program doesn't have a stabilizer, maybe look into a different program, because stabilizer is probably one of the most main features about digital art that anyone if you don't use a stabilizer, then you definitely should, because I feel like stabilizers, for some reason, you'll have a really smooth line in real life, and then you do digital art, and you're like, the line looks disgusting, yeah. And I didn't know what a stabilizer was for a while in my digital art days, which, that was a problem, because, well, my line art looked shaky, and the colors were just bleeding everywhere, that was nice. And I think what I liked most about this week's theme was because I was always afraid to draw a piece of Lavender Town's art, because I always felt like my style was so similar to hers that it just wasn't my own. And I knew if I just drew it in my style, people would be like, you just drew it again, but in Lavender Town style. And I'd be like, oh, I drew it on my own. Well, why? But I feel like if you ever do draw this in your style, and you don't have the original piece in your post, unless the person is oh, I don't want the original piece in in your post, I wanted to see what you made. But if you want to draw this in your style, you can do that. I also really like this challenge for this week, because I was in a complete art block, and of course it comes right after my tablet arrives, so I couldn't do any good art except for some old My Little Pony cringy OCs. Which, I wish I'd recorded it, but I did record it, and then it corrupted. Don't use an underpowered PC, because, it just doesn't end well. And so, because the PC I used, it was $300, and you would be like, oh, that's an okay price for a PC, but the thing was that the PC, it's a good PC, it runs games that are more, CPU and GPU, which I don't even think GPU is the right thing, but we'll pretend it is. And it was always so I was just always so interested. I was always so fascinated how a computer that was so underpowered could just run games that were very demanding at such good speeds. But if I try to use Photoshop, I can't scroll at all. There's no rhyme or reason to it. I know how the Photoshop scroll works. I've changed it to just be the scroll wheel, but it doesn't work for some reason. Like, I can come back and do, like, I'll be in Krita, and I'll go back to Photoshop CS5, and I'll be like, maybe this isn't, I can't even scroll, why? And I don't really get why I can't scroll, like, if I use the scroll wheel on the mouse, it's fine. So here I'm working on the background. I'm just trying to figure out a brush to use. And I couldn't figure out, like, what brush I was going to use. That was the brush I'm using right now was the one I used last time. And so I keep trying, and the only problem with the brush I'm using right now is you can kind of see it on here, is that it's very laggy. And I don't know why. I think it's because, like, it's like 5 brushes at once, so that might be the problem. But it looks like we're just finishing coloring the hair right now, and the way I did the color palette was I would take the color and then I would lighten it up a little bit to make it look more pastel. And I feel like, because my style was more pastel colors, and I really like that, because I just feel like pastel colors, like, they look more soft towards the eye, and they're just easier to look at, and I've always really liked them. And the thing was, like, of course, when you're younger, like, you're like, what? You can have pastels? Because, like, your crown set only has, like, 12 very basic saturated colors. But, like, when I was younger and I was doing art, I realized if you press lighter with the crown, like, you could get variations with it. And so, like, I didn't do anything with that at the time, but I definitely wish I did, because I would have learned what pastel colors were earlier. And, like, everyone always compliments me on my art, and I feel like it's probably good to mention that I am 13. I'm pretty young. Pretty young as in I have a conscience. And when I look back on this video, like, 2 years from now, I'll be like, it's so cringy, But I feel like that, like, everyone tells me my art's so good, but the thing is, when I was in 6th grade, this girl, and we're just gonna call her, A, because her name started with an A. And so, she was really good at art. Like, you may be like, oh, well, 6th grade, she was drawing realistic pictures, like, realistic, like, perfect pictures. If you wanted a cat drawn, she drew a cat. She drew Pikachu once, and I was like, I need to be just like her. So I tried to draw Pikachu, and I couldn't. And I kept trying to do realism, and I couldn't. And then I just kept falling into this pattern that I would base others off of mine. And I'd be like, your art's so good. I'm never gonna get good art. And having that mindset definitely affects you. It still affects me now, because, like, if I ever see someone's better art than me, and they draw the same picture as me, and it's like, it's so much better, I always feel defeated, and I feel like that I should be better at art than them. They haven't tried. Like, it's a very toxic mindset that I've struggled with having, and that's actually been the way with a couple of other subjects as well. But I know it stemmed from art, and the reason I know this is because in elementary school, like, if someone was better at me in something, I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, they're better at me. I'm bad. I mean, I already was bad, but I mean, they're already better than me. So, but there's just, whenever I was, I feel like I started drawing seriously, so 7th grade was over, and I was like, YouTube videos, And then, finally, I got curious one day. I had my sketchbook out, I didn't know what to draw, and I wasn't really drawing anything still. And so I got interested, and I searched up art YouTubers, and of course, Lavender Town comes up. She was the first search result, and I'd actually watched her videos before, so seeing them again, I was like, oh yeah, I know her. And so, I watched a couple of her videos, I watched her do this, not that videos, and I learned so much in only maybe 5 or 6 hours, which I really was amazed by. That, like, 5 or 6 hours, I was able to learn, like, a ton more than I had, which really shocked me. And I just realized, oh no, I didn't. I thought I did. I thought I colored over the freckles. It's just, like, they're very not visible at all. And, someone did say in the chat, like, this doesn't really look like the pose at all, and I know, but I'm just bad at drawing. That's the truth. And so I'm trying to figure out, like, how I'm gonna shade things here. Because I don't know how I want to shade things yet. So I've colored her eyes, and I'm still trying to figure out kind of how I want to shade stuff. So once I do that, I just decide, you know what, we're just gonna wing it. Maybe. I don't know. But after I start the shading, I always say, like, if your drawing looks terrible, shade it, you're gonna love it, because I always feel like shading makes everything look better. Like, there's no rhyme or reason. I mean, it just looks more realistic. When I first discovered shading, I was doing a whimsicott Kwame. If you know what Kwame is, you're amazing. If not, there's no need to look it up. Don't look up the fandom, I swear. But basically, I was trying to make whimsicott Kwame, and I thought, you know what? Why not add shading? And the drawing, I don't like it anymore, but I loved the drawing after I was done. And I made this shading super minimalistic and soft here, but just adding a little bit of shading, it just helps so much. And I went back after I had finished recording this, and I tried to smooth out the shading, and then I realized I made the tone too light, so it already looked smooth. So, if you want your shading to have like a gradient effect and all, either use the gradient tool itself or use the darker shading as a base. And in Krita, there are some blending tools that you can use. It looks like a little Q-tip. I think it is a Q-tip. So the Q-tip, it just like smudges the color around, it's not really smudge, it just smudges the two colors together, which it makes it look like a gradient even though it's not. And I tried using gradients before on my first finished digital art piece, which didn't work well. And so I just think gradients make everything look better. I know that totally wasn't stolen from anyone. What are you talking about? But I feel like if your drawing just doesn't look good, just take that extra time and add shading to it, because it always looks better to me whenever I see a piece with shading versus no shading. And if you think you can't draw, or you should look at me at the beginning of my art career, which it's only been 3 years that I've drawn art seriously. And if you think your art's not good, my starting art was basically just coloring. Like, that's what I did. I didn't color, but I have this little pocket coloring book, and I had these gel pens, and I also had some Prismacolors, and I would take these, I take the gel pens, and I take the Prismacolors, and then once I had taken the Prismacolors and the gel pens, I would copy the drawing, like, line for line, and once I did that, I tried to color it, I'd fail, and I was like, it looked better without color, And so I often left my drawings uncolored for a while, and then in 7th grade, I just picked that back up. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you did, and also, if you liked it, please recommend it to a friend. This is the first speed paint I'm really doing, and I'd really like to get out there on YouTube more. I'm going to upload every week, so bye guys!